There was a faction of players at the competitive Pokemon scene that wished to return to a simpler time, where instead of dealing with managing Dynamax turns and baiting Terastalizations, we play simple, gimmick-free Pokemon, like our ancestors played. And to those people, I say, it sucks to suck, I guess. The Pokemon Company just announced a new game that could change everything, Pokemon Champions. This is the first game dedicated specifically to ranked online PvP Pokemon battles, and it'll be available not only on the Switch, but on phones. This is a huge deal for increasing the reach of official competitive Pokemon battles. But that's not what I want to talk about right now. Instead, I want to focus on this battle scene in the trailer. The Charizard Mega Evolves, and the Dondozo Terastalizes. It looks like this is the first time since Generation 7 that a game exists with multiple gimmicks at the same time, but I think it's more than just those two. After all, the stadium looks to be a similar size to the ones we battled in during Sword and Shield, so I think it's fair to assume Dynamax will be back. And it'd be just a little weird for only one of the 4 gimmicks to be missing, so sure, Z-moves are there too. We're all gonna look like Ash Ketchum at the end of the anime. So of course, the first question we should all ask is, what Pokemon should we be using each of these gimmicks on? Today, we're going to explore that question by talking about the best Pokemon to use each gimmick with, starting with the first and most popular, Mega Evolution. Mega Evolutions are pretty simple. Once per battle, when you're selecting your attacks, if a Pokemon is holding its Mega Stone, you can choose to Mega Evolve that Pokemon, changing the way it looks, giving it a sizable stat increase, and usually giving it a new ability. There's 2 Pokemon I really consider in the running for the best Mega Evolution, but one of them is kind of cheating, so I'll start with the honest one first. Mega Salamence is extremely strong. In 2016, the year Wolf Glick won the World Championships, 2 of this Pokemon made top 8 among some of the most broken legendary Pokemon to ever be legal for competitive play. And the next 2 times it was legal to play in the World Championships, it won. But what makes it so strong? Well, before you Mega Evolve, you can take advantage of base Salamance's Intimidate, giving it good defensive utility. Then, when it does Mega Evolve, it gets the super strong ability Aerialate, which turns normal type moves into flying type moves and increases their power by 20%. This turns Hyper Voice into a super strong, no drawback flying type spread move, and Double Edge into supercharged version of Brave Bird. Thanks to Mega Salamance's great attack and respectable special attack, it is one of the few Pokemon to be a strong mixed attacker in VGC, meaning it uses both its attacking stat and special attacking stat. People have rounded out these 2 powerful moves with Roost for recovery, Tailwind for speed control, or just plain old protect, you pick 2 of the 3. Such a combination of offense and defensive abilities made Mega Salamence an extremely strong choice, but it isn't the best Mega Evolution. In fact, it isn't even the best Flying and Dragon Mega Evolution. I'm referring, of course, to Mega Rayquaza. Now, remember when I said that Mega Pokemon require a Mega Stone? Yeah, well, apparently, according to the lore, Mega Rayquaza swallowed its Mega Stone, so it doesn't need to hold one. This is a huge deal, because it means you get a Mega Evolution stat buff, and you get to have a held item. This on its own is already extremely strong, but wait, there's more, a lot more. First off, as a restricted legendary Pokemon, base Rayquaza already has a huge base stat total, so it doesn't really need the big stat boost to get to its Megas. Plus, its ability is absurdly strong. Delta Stream creates a unique weather condition called Strong Winds, which functionally erases flying type weaknesses. So instead of being weak to rock, 4 times weak to ice, and neutral against electric type attacks, like normal Rayquaza is, Mega Rayquaza is functionally neutral against rock, only regularly weak to ice because of its dragon typing, and resists electric. There's still more! This ability also nullifies all other weather except unique weather conditions created by Primal Kyogre and Primal Groudon, in which case the 3 interact like the usual weather mechanics where they can override each other depending on which ability activated last. This would make it seem like these 3 Pokemon are at a parity with each other in terms of weather control, but that isn't quite the case. While Primal Kyogre and Primal Groudon are similar to Mega Pokemon, they aren't quite the same. You don't get to decide when they'll take their primal forms and change the weather. Instead, it must happen when they're first sent out onto the field each battle, meaning that the Mega Rayquaza player can react and Mega Evolve to get the weather in their control after it's too late for the Primal player to do what they want to do. So this thing's ability erases its biggest defensive weakness, offers some of the strongest weather control in the game, it has absolutely absurd stats, and well, it gets to do all of this for literally no downside. There's no cost. It's no surprise this Pokemon won the World Championships in 2016, and it got a whole bunch of other regional international wins along the way too. Now we're on to our next generational gimmick, and frankly, my personally least favorite one, Z-moves. Z-moves are pretty simple. If your Pokemon is holding the right sort of Z-Crystal, Crystal, you and your Pokemon perform a funky wonky little dance before doing a once per battle, absolutely devastating move. Now, just like the last category, we have two entrants, one that plays with the mechanic pretty fair, and the other one that kind of breaks the rules of the way the mechanic usually works. Our first Pokemon is Tapu Koko. As far as speed tiers went back in Generation 7, he was one of the fastest Pokemon around, but he had one pretty big problem. He was often forced to use his special attacking stat instead of his attacking stat, which was higher, because he just didn't have a physical fairy type move. The natural boost of Tapu Koko's electric type attacks with the electric terrain he sets up with his ability sort of made up for having used this weaker stat, but you needed a little more. So a lot of players would rely on electric or fairy type Z Crystal to do absurd damage with Gigavolt Havoc or Twinkle Tackle, depending on which move you want to use. Pretty simple. Our second entrant in this list is like if you got to use a Z move and a Mega Evolution all at once, Ultra Necrozma. Basically, if you give your Dawn Wings or Duskmane Necrozma an Ultra Necrozmium Z to hold, you'll have the option during move selection to Ultra Burst into Ultra Necrozma, a Psychic and Dragon type Pokemon with a genuinely absurdly high base stat total. Like, too big, too much. In this form, it gets access to the ability Neuroforce, which makes its super effective moves do even more damage. It's kind of like an expert belt. All of this before Necrozma actually uses its Z move, Light That Burns the Sky, a literally 200 base power attack that is either coming off of a 167 attack stat or special attack stat. That's basically a nuclear missile, and while it isn't directly related to the Z moves, it's also worth noting that the access to Expanding Force is a huge upgrade to Ultra Necrozma, so it'll be even better than it was in the past. Next, we're looking at the Generation 8 mechanic, and probably the most powerful one, Dynamax and Gigantamax. This mechanic is pretty simple. Once per game, any one Pokemon for each player can Dynamax, doubling its HP and turning all of its moves into max moves, ultra powerful attacks that increase your Pokemon's stats or decrease your opponent's, and this lasts for 3 turns. Some Pokemon have Gigantamax forms, which turns one of the max moves into a move unique to that Pokemon, and one of these Gigantamax Pokemon is the de facto best option to use this mechanic with, Gigantamax Charizard. And it's due to a whole slew of traits that just meld together perfectly. First, Charizard is a flying type. It has Stab on the strongest Generics max move, Max Airstream, which on top of being a powerful flying type attack, gives a +1 speed boost to both Pokemon on your side of the field. And that's so strong just to tack on. I mean, it's like if Hurricane hit harder, never missed, and had a huge upside. Right now, people are willing to use a super duper weak move like Flame Charge that can give a speed boost to one of their Pokemon, so it can't be overstated how strong this effect is. Next is its signature G-Max move, G-Max Wildfire. This is an extremely hard-hitting fire-type move with a ridiculous upside. For 4 turns, at the end of each turn, each of your opponent's non-fire-type Pokemon take damage equal to 1/6 of their maximum health, dealing a super significant amount of damage over the course of a battle. Finally, there's a special interaction that Charizard takes great advantage of. The item Life Orb is great with Dynamax. Life Orb makes your Pokemon do 30% more damage at the cost of 10% of your maximum HP when you attack. This works out really well because even while Dynamaxed, Life Orb calculates the damage you'll take based on 10% of your non-Dynamaxed HP, so it ends up taking only 5% away. Charizard's hidden ability, Solar Power, also takes away a percentage of your maximum HP in exchange for more power while in the sun. Literally every format G-Max Charizard has been in, it was super duper strong. All the way back in 2020, it won the Dallas Regional Championships in the hands of Aaron Trailer, and in the last ever tournament of Pokemon Sword and Shield, it came in 2nd place at Worlds. And it was a centerpiece on the most defining archetype of the end of the Sword and Shield era, Rinya's Sun. Finally, we are on to our most recent generational gimmick, Terastalization. In a lot of ways, this is by far the most fair gimmick, allowing one Pokemon to change their type once per battle. Because this gimmick has a lot less going on than the other ones, it doesn't skyrocket some random Pokemon to greatness, the way Gigantamax lets Charizard hang out with the types of, Groudon. Rather, it allows Pokemon to cover up their weaknesses. So, the stronger Pokemon is, the better it is at using Terastalization. To this end, I'd say this category is a 3-way tie between 2 Pokemon. First, the 2 Calyrexes. These 2 have absolutely busted stats, moves, and abilities, but only their typing was ever holding them back. Calyrex Ice Rider is a completely broken defensively setted Pokemon, balanced almost entirely by the fact that Ice and Psychic are really bad defensive typing. Being able to change that with the click of a button into a strong defensive type, like Water or Dragon, has perfectly demonstrated why Game Freak gave this Pokemon its terrible typing in the first place. Similarly, Calyrex Shadow Rider is an extremely fast, extremely offensive Pokemon, balanced by a few things. First, it lacks priority. Second, that it is 2 times weak to one of the strongest priority moves in the game, Sucker Punch. And third, that Dark dark types in general are extremely difficult for this Pokemon to beat. Back in Sword and Shield, we were running Mudshot on it. Being able to flip those matchups on its head by swapping Shadow Rider to a powerful defensive typing like Fairy, and or being able to use Tera Blast to blast through Pokemon that would otherwise wall CSR, the way Wolf Glick did in the 2024 North American International Championships, lets Calyrex sort of be counterplay to its counterplay, which I don't think is actually a good, healthy thing for a Pokemon that's already has the potential to have so much snowballing going on. But nothing encapsulates the way I feel about Tera and strong Pokemon like how I feel about Tera and Urshifu Rapid Strike. I've explained in vivid detail how much I dislike Urshifu, but quickly, with the combination of auto-critting moves, which stop screens and stat drops from mitigating damage, and its ability, Unseen Fist, allowing Urshifu to hit through Protect, Urshifu just does not need more ways to make it more difficult to deal with. And yet, with Tera, Urshifu can make itself a Grass type to switch its weakness to Grass on its head, and to avoid Rage Powder, circumventing some of the strongest counterplay to Urshifu, which is Rocky Helmet Amoonguss, or you can even Tera to Water for extra damage, so that poor moron who said, well, I can't protect, so I might as well calc my Pokemon to live Surging Strikes, still won't live it. Can you tell I don't like Urshifu? Well, there you have it. In my opinion, the best Pokemon to look out for each gimmick to use in Pokemon Champions. What are you the most excited to play with? Thanks for watching. Bye.